Yeah.
So you remember that thing I said earlier about not hitting the go live button?
Yes.
I did it
Did it
again.
happen again?
I did it again. Okay, so we're live now. So let me just set this up for anybody who's just sort of popping in right now. Welcome. This is Flex, Adapt with Intent. These are my guests tonight. Josh Kanusky, there we go, drummer for the David Bromberg Band, and Quentin Fisher, founding member of Serene Green. Got all my other nonsense out of the way. I'll find a way to work it back in later. Um, and these fellows are friends, go back quite a few years. Not as many as you might think because they are quite a bit younger than I am. So tell us how do you know each other?
Well, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I was playing at Godfrey's one night. This is years and years ago, and a friend of mine says to me, "Hey, just next door at the Funhouse, there's this group of really great young guys that are playing, and they're playing really good music, and you should go check them out." So I go there, and I don't even know if Q and Michael were even old enough to be in a bar, but they sure played like they were, and I became immediate fans, because of just the quality of music that they were playing, and then I got to become friends with Q, and yeah, it's just the icing on the cake, really. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, I guess the first time I'd seen you was at a David Bromberg concert, pushing 10 years ago or so now.
Yeah, close to.
But the first time I remember us really hanging out together was when our buddy Asa brought me over to your place out by Nutropoli. You were
That's
living
right.
at the horse farm there and
Yeah.
got together just to hang out and pick, and we were fast friends ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. See that it's not hard, you just hit it off right away. Josh, you mentioned Q not thinking he was old enough to play in the bar. I'm going to add my 2 cents to this. Going back
Oh
a few
boy.
years. No, it's not like that. This goes back, it's probably 10 years or so. We had these Tunes at Twilight concerts in the Sun and Courtyard here in Bethlehem. And your bandmate, Michael Johnson's sister, was one of the people who was booking those concerts,
Oh
I
yeah.
think, right? And I don't
Right.
know what was going on. I think I was there. I was a vendor or something was happening. I went over to Kara and I said, "Who are these guys? They're incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, this is real. This is the real deal. I can't believe you've." Because typically what we'll see in these backyard sort of downtown business things, you'll see cover bands and you'll see the most popular kind of music for the masses, and you guys were playing this really cool bluegrass with percussion, as I recall. You had
Mm-hmm.
somebody playing a cajon and
Right.
percussion. Who and I thought, these guys are the real deal. And again, I went back over to Godfrey Daniels and I said, keep your eyes on this ball because
Yeah.
it's coming at you.
I felt the same way, Dina,
And I think you
immediately.
were in high school
Yeah.
I
at that point
probably,
in
yeah.
time.
It's probably
Yeah,
17 or 18 at that point.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And Josh, I saw you playing with Angel Band
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
Godfrey's. I remember that as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
see, we all have these little stories that we connect to one another, and it just continues to happen in these small but big music communities that we're all a part of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. It's nice to be a part of it.
isn't it? The
Sure
connections
is.
just keep happening. I know.
Yeah.
I remember having to put together a band for Music Fest one year, and Nick Franklick, I looked at him and I said, I don't know if I have a drummer. I don't really have a drummer. It was a Music Fest or it was some event, and he said, I could ask Josh Kanusky. And I was like, really? He said, well, I could try. And bam, there we were.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful.
It
So
sure
Yeah.
is.
ah, cool. So um so here we are. We're 10 years into this, all of these stories that we've just told, and everything's going really well, and we're all like so successful. You know, Q, let's just talk a little bit about how Serene Green moved from that trio. Who was the percussion player?
So that was Cameron Clark, who was playing percussion with us, who's currently my roommate, in fact. But
Oh.
yeah, I mean, it's come a long way and gone through lots of transitions since then. We definitely started off with like a broader kind of folkier style and
Mhm.
narrowed it down and delved into the bluegrass thing a couple years later, and really kind of, once we connected with Shane and Steve, then really kind of like landed on what we want our sound to be and started like working at it, practicing hard. And I mean, I've been gigging pretty regularly with Michael in some fashion since I was a senior in high school. But over the years, especially the past 3 or 4 years with the band, it's gotten really busy. We've, been traveling a lot more, getting better gigs, different kinds of gigs, and just, I mean, meeting so many people. That's the best part of it. We get to go to all these places and meet amazing musicians everywhere we go.
You're two albums in now?
Yep,
Two
that's right.
records? Yep, yep. And there's a lot of original music on there too,
Yeah,
right? So you've got all
mostly
that.
original.
Yeah, a lot of collaboration, a lot of practicing, a lot of rehearsing.
Right. All four of
And
us, right, like contribute to the original
yeah,
songs, and practicing is our thing. We love hard, rigorous practice. We're not afraid to criticize each other or really like dig into a little tiny detail of a vocal line or a arrangement or pull out the
yeah,
metronome. Like we love that stuff.
Mhm.
that's
We all kind of, some people don't like to practice in that way. They just like kind of get together and play and get a certain vibe going. That's one approach, but like we like to nerd out on all the little minutia of it.
mhm. And well, you hit quite a bit of a festival circuit in the last couple of years.
Yeah, we've been really lucky, and we had quite a summer lined up too. But yeah, I mean it's come a long way. We've gotten to play a lot of great festivals, and like I said, just meeting all these musicians, that's really probably what's helped us the most along the way. I mean,
Yeah.
people like Josh has been a huge support from like early on with our band, and everyone we've met on the festival circuit since then. I mean, that's really what's fueled our progress, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh. So when did you hit with Bromberg?
Well, I kind of it was about maybe 2000, late 2009
Mm-hmm.
that I had, with just the really good fortune, it kind of just fell in my lap. I got an audition with uh, David Bromberg's wife, Nancy Josephson. And I wound up getting a gig in Angel Band. And then it just kind of naturally progressed, playing in Angel Band for a few years. And then we would open up for David. And at that time, he was touring with like essentially a string band. And one thing led to another. And I was really lucky that he needed a drummer at the point where I was there. And I just kind of, by some dumb luck, I just kind of got the gig, and I worked really hard. He sent me like all his records, and he said, "Hey, like I have a gig for you with his big band." And and I said, "Well, what's the set list, or what kind of songs or whatever like that?" And he's like, "I don't have a set list," so he sent me all his records, which was a lot of records. He said, and I called him and I said, "Hey, is there any song in particular off these records that you want me to know?" He said, "Oh yeah, all of them." And I said, "All right," and so I worked really hard for like a month. I mean, you know, 8 hours a day I spent
Yeah.
listening to this music and charting out this music, and just It was like, it was something that I wanted so badly. I think it's always something that I've wanted incredibly, like this is the only thing I've ever wanted since I was a child, consistently, was just to be a musician, even though I didn't know it was possible to even obtain something like that when I was a child. Um, but I just kept with it. And, like Hugh said, you just do your best because you love to do it. And then eventually someone just kind of says, hey, like, I like what you do. Why don't you come this way? And I think that's how it works. At least that's how it's worked for me.
I'm sure it's a little different though in the picking out the, when you're rehearsing and all of that. You're sort of beholden to, what David says.
Oh yeah, like with David's gig, my job is to give him exactly what he needs. And I made the mistake when I was first starting out with David. He talks about this too. It's kind of cool. We were on stage one time, and I think we were somewhere in Niagara Falls or something at a casino. We were playing a show, and during sound check, he looks back at me and says, Josh, the way you're playing it, I just don't really, I don't want it to be that way. I want it this way. And he'd tell me, what he wanted. And I was still pretty green at that point. And I looked at him and I said, no, David, I don't want to do it that way. And he looked back at me, and I realized immediately what a mistake that was, and here's a veteran, and he took me under his wing, and he put trust in me to do the right thing. And so I had to just get a little bit of a gut check there, and reestablish my mind, and just follow his direction. And that's how it's been ever since. And he trusts me, and I trust him. And that's just, he's taught me that you have to, I'm not a lead singer, or I don't really write music all that much. So, I'm mostly a side man, and he's really been a mentor to me, and showing me that if you are going to be the side man, you really have to serve the person that you're working for. And so that's kind of my goal anymore these days. And, thank goodness I have some good teachers.
Yes, that's very important. Yeah, and you got Nancy Josephson actually is she's watching. She says hi, Josh.
Hi, Nancy, David's wife. That's funny.
Yeah, yes, wonderful.
Yeah.
See,
Well, she's a big reason. Like I have to thank her. One time early on with playing with David, I was just struggling on the road because at that point I was really struggling to understand like who I was. Am I this like construction worker kid from from little town, or am I this musician? Like who am I? It was a struggle for me, at first. And in the green room one night, Nancy, I was just saying, I don't know if this is for me. I think I might quit. And she really had she listened to what I had to say, and then she said, listen, like, you were born to do this, and you're allowed to do this. She, in the way she was giving me permission to be myself and to be my best self, so, I mean, I have a lot of stories like that with people that are really important to me. And, just like that, I have a lot of really great support, in my life. And yeah. So it's not just me that's here. It's everybody. It's my community. It's my family. It's, the reason that I'm here is because of all them.
It's kind of incredible to have mentors and people that have, gone before you, and also those that are there to tell you, to give you permission to be awesome, right? Nancy says she has absolutely no memory of that. But yay, everyone!
Well, I know I do. My memory is not that good, but I do remember that because it was very important.
Q, I'm sure you have times where you've been maybe, I'm going to bet that there's been a festival or two where you've met someone who, you just gave you that tiny little tidbit of wisdom.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I find, I've had a lot of those conversations with Josh here.
Yeah. Oh
Truthfully,
yeah.
when I'm just, kind of in a transitional period, not sure where things are going, or just need someone to talk out, like what's going on, who would understand this kind of circumstance. Oftentimes, I find myself on the phone with Josh for an hour or so, working all this kind of stuff out. And a lot of
Yeah.
times, you've been that person to be like, listen, this is what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, across the board, there's definitely been a lot of people that have given me that encouragement and that kind of inspiration. And I mean, for me, it hasn't even been just that one, like having some big hero figure give me that validation, but just like people I meet who are on the same page as me, in a similar place, doing a similar kind of thing. When you like make those connections and have those moments making music together that are just like so strong and impactful, that's the validation for me, really.
Yeah, I think those
Yeah.
I think those little bits can come from places you don't even know until you look back on them years later and you
Yeah,
remember like, oh, yeah, that person told me that, and you take them with you for a long, long time.
yeah,
So let's just cut to this point, and we'll say that so back in March, our calendars just went blank. We just started crossing things off, right?
Mhm.
yep,
I'm and so um Q, you said you had a lot. I'm sure you had a lot booked for this summer coming up,
yeah.
this
We
spring and summer.
we had our best season to date lined up. A lot of festivals, going to a lot of new cities, new states. We had our first international gig booked up at a festival in Canada. We were booked for Grey Fox, which has been a goal of ours for a while now, one of our favorite festivals, and a couple tours in between. It was going to be a really good summer full of gigs. Would have been a busy one. I remember it must have been February sometime before, like, we were on lockdown here, but when the virus was starting to be reported around here, I remember seeing, can't think of who it was, but some musician friend in a different region talking about how they just had a cancellation due to COVID. And I remember looking at that thinking like, oh man, wonder if I'm going to get any gigs canceled because of COVID. Little did I know at the
Yeah.
time, yeah, they're all going to be canceled.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of hard to see coming at that point.
Well, yeah, everybody said, 2 weeks. We'll see you in two
Yeah,
weeks. Just
right.
stay home and everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And then 2 months, and now, did you know that it's March 185 today?
Oh yeah.
Today is the 185th
Hmm.
day of March right now. Yes, that's how I'm
Yeah,
Yeah.
calculating this thing
yeah.
going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
There definitely came a point though in early March where it's like it went from like, oh, am I gonna have a gig canceled to like, oh,
Yeah.
there's gonna be nothing for like
No.
a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You got a
Yeah.
little comment from Dave Fry. He's watching too. He says, "I treasure the times I've played with you both, and I
Mm.
continue to
Oh,
learn
thanks,
from you
Dave.
all." Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Dave.
Well, Dave's
Um,
one of those important people too. You got to give
Oh,
a shout out to
absolutely.
Dave.
yeah,
For giving. For all the folks at Godfrey Daniels, for giving not only young people but just the community a place to experience music.
yeah,
For Q and I personally, to be able to create music in that space, it's
Yeah.
just
yeah.
Oh, I
hands down.
consider I consider that place a huge part of my musical development, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that we're talking about Godfrey Daniels. For anybody who doesn't know,
Oh yeah.
what the reference is right now. Dave Fry was the founder, one of the founders of Godfrey's,
Yeah.
and that's really part of what bonds this community together is that we have we have places within the area, within the towns, within the region, who just sort of are like the glue.
Hmm.
They're like, they set the bar really high, and we all kind of want to achieve that bar. I'm
Yeah.
just, we're talking about, this whole thing is about adapting with intent, and I'm remembering. Dave is going to remember this too. I hope you all have a good memory left. Josh, you remember Mayfair a few
Yeah.
years ago? We showed up thinking that there was going to be backline on the stage,
Oh yeah.
and Dave and I had you come and play with. It was like the Southside Ramble, I think we called it, and we had
Yeah.
all these. Everybody was ready to go. It was going to be a jam, and there was no backline. And you brought. I think you had a snare
I had a snare and my sticks.
and sticks, and I don't know what else we did, but I'm remembering you were like, do you have a big case for like gear,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
could
And I
use it.
tell you what, that experience turned out to be a lifesaver, not just in that show, but then a few years later, I got a call to do a tour with Larry Campbell and Teresa Williams. And we were on the tail end of the tour. I think maybe there was one more show, and the bass player's wife went into labor early. So they flew the bass player home, and we were driving to the gig. It was maybe a couple hours of a drive. And Larry Campbell is in the back seat. He was about to go on tour with Jackson Browne, and he's in the back seat charting, rehearsing his parts for Jackson Browne. And he said to me, "Hey, Josh, man, for tonight's show, I don't want you to play a drum set." And I said, "Okay, Larry, whatever you want." And then a couple of minutes later, he goes, "Hey, Josh, like he gave me another tip, and I said, "Okay, Larry, And maybe a couple, more miles down the road, he says, "Hey, Josh." And I said, "What's up, Larry?" And he goes, "Hey, whatever I just told you, just forget about it. Just do what you want to do." And I said, "Okay." So we got to the gig, and I didn't want to disappoint him. And we didn't have a bass player, but he still wanted to use me for the gig, which was great for me. And, but he didn't want me to use a kick drum. So I wound up the same situation that I did at that, I think, the Mayfair that you're talking about, that gig. I did the exact same thing. I took a lid to a utility case, and I had the sound guys put a microphone underneath it and wrapped it in a towel. And I used that for my kick drum, essentially. And everybody in the place that knew what was going on, like, loved the idea. And I thought to myself, whew, thank goodness I had that festival gig that there was no backline, because out of necessity we made it work. And I used that trick more than once, but luckily I was able to make it work.
Talk
You
about adapting with intent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to do it. I've used a suit. I had carry some gear in a suitcase, in an old
Yeah.
suitcase, and I've used it when I forgot to bring. Somebody forgot the cajon.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
tapped on that thing. We got another comment here from Mark Cosgrove.
Yeah. Mark, hey,
Mark
what's
Cosgrove,
up?
what a test the COVID is. I hope we all pass. Good show, you all.
Yeah, I tell you
Yeah,
what.
we're all passing. We are all passing. I'm giving everybody an A.
It's the first day.
Everybody gets an A plus.
First A I've
Yes.
got.
Yeah. How about it?
Yeah. I tell you what,
Yeah.
this, not only, the musicians that I know and talk to and just keep, tabs on and stuff like that. You know, we lost not only like are we lost losing an income here, because this is what we do for a living. A lot of people think that, if you're a musician that you're rich or something of those lines, but it's 99.9% of the time that's not the case, for a lot of us. And so not only did we lose income, that we have to supplement or find other things to do to continue to have this income from our, for ourselves and our families, but it's almost like losing a part of yourself. Like, playing music for, is it's like what we do, and it's how it's like we're junkies, we need this creativity to happen. And when we don't have it, it's really, I don't want to complain, but it's very tough to handle. You
Yeah.
almost have to like figure out, okay, like what do I do now? How do I feel? And, I know that the moment I get on stage again with Bromberg, I know I'm going to cry. I'm going to be that happy. It's just going to be something. Those kinds of things are so special to be able to perform music for people. And it helps them too, I think. But I sure know it helps me. And so someday we'll be able to get back to it. I hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for you, Josh, you can't actually like set up. Well, we talked about this. You could
Yeah.
just like set up a live stream and just, like play drums and any other instrument, for like an hour or so. But
Yeah.
does anyone want to watch you, right?
I don't even want to watch that.
No, but Q, you've been able to do this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done a couple live streams, Michael and I, and I mean, it's totally new for me. I'm like the worst millennial you ever met when it comes to technology. I'm like, I was late to the game with Facebook. I'm just kind of tend to resist it.
Yeah.
And video chats have always kind of bugged me out. Like in the pre-COVID era, I just like have never been comfortable or familiar with the video chat. And so a live stream gig with no audience that you can see was like very strange to get over initially, and I was a little nervous about it. Wasn't sure if we'd be able to like bring the same energy to it. And the energy is definitely different, but I learned to like it in some ways. Like for one thing, like the comments and the interactive aspect is kind of cool. It's a little more, or at least it can be a little more informal and interactive than if you're just playing a show somewhere. You're not going to be taking questions from the audience. But on the live stream, in between songs, you can, see what people have to say and say hi to your friends and answer some questions. And I like that element of it. And we learned to get comfortable in front of the camera with no live audience. Just took a little bit of time. But I've had the same experience teaching lessons. Like I never did a virtual lesson before COVID. And I was really resistant to the idea of it. Then I started doing it, and I was like, wow, you know what? There's a way to make this work. And it makes a lot of sense. It's really practical in a lot of ways. And so I've really come around to the whole idea of it.
So what lessons are you giving?
I currently have one regular weekly guitar student. He's 8 years old. Been teaching him from scratch. And then I give other lessons here and there, like musician friends and people who just need some help with this or that. Give mandolin and fiddle lessons too. But my one regular student lately, I've been doing virtual lessons, and it's been going pretty well.
And did anybody ever say like to the parents, like, if you don't want to do this, we don't have to do this, right? And they're like, no, please take him, please take him for an hour.
Yeah,
like,
right.
We need you.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we had a couple of comments here. Let's start with this one. Nancy, Josh, you referenced crying when you play.
I'm a big crier.
And Nancy says there's no crying in rock and roll.
Well, it's a good thing we play folk.
But I was going to say, you can tell her there's crying in blues, right?
Or blues. Yeah, it's all about that.
Yes. And Ramona Labar is here and then we will get back to it. Great show, friends. A+. Josh, she gives you an A+. How's that?
All right. That's good.
And Dave Fry is lamenting over the live stream issue of learning. We learn to play to the little white dot, and you get used to it, and you get good at it. Yeah. I had recently had an issue. I'm going to call it an issue. It really became an issue with something I was supposed to be a live stream, and then it sort of became something where somebody wanted to record the performance ahead of time and then broadcast it. And I said, I can't do that. That's not going to work for me because I need to be able to interact.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to be staring at a camera, I'm going to have to be able to interact with the audience. I need to be able to see the comments. I need to know what they're thinking and how they're feeling about it, because if I'm not, then this is not the right format for that. So, if you want to create a video and put it out on YouTube for some other, greater intent, that's fine. But I really was holding true to the fact that this was supposed to be an interaction, and how could I possibly make any money if I wasn't able to actually talk to the people like
Yeah,
we're doing
yeah.
now. And eventually I pulled out of it because it just wasn't going the way that it was supposed to go. But yeah, it's this whole thing of learning how to, play to the void, into the
Yeah.
void, it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
We ran into a similar problem with the pre-recorded video. We had done a couple live streams and it went really well. And then Grey Fox Bluegrass Festival asked us to submit a pre-recorded video for their Spirit of Grey Fox series that they broadcast during the week of Grey Fox. And for as well as the live stream went for us, we struggled so much to just do a short few songs in a pre-recorded video. Even though you're still just playing to a camera all the same, it's like the energy was different. Like psychologically it was different. And we struggled with it so much more than,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, live stream is very forgiving.
Right.
It's forgiving.
It's there and it's gone.
Or it's there forever, but you can at least accept. You can accept the problems. There's like me not hitting the go live button. I'm well, all y'all missed is my rambling introduction, but and I said I would get back to this again. I want to put this up one more time and say that I am doing this for the benefit of the conversation and helping keep things moving along. And I think there's a little bit of mental health involved here. I think this is good for all our mental health and our emotional health right now. We need to talk about this, but on top of that, this is a lot of hours out of the week for me. So anyone who wishes to contribute, it would be wonderful. 10% of those tips are going to be donated to Turning Point of the Lehigh Valley. And to ensure that, I have set up a monthly donation that goes to Turning Point. So if you do want to contribute, it's paypal.me/Dana Hall 2020. And, these are strange times. Ordinarily, I would not ask for anything so brazenly, but, we got to take care of each other in this way. So I want to get back to something you all talked about. So now we're 185 days into this, and Q, you said you had a few, you've had some music playing. Josh, I know you picked up a couple of gigs here and there. But Q, you mentioned construction.
Oh yeah.
What's going on?
So in March, let's see, I played my last gig with the band. It was the first week of March. And after that, all of the gigs got canceled. And for a couple weeks, I wasn't doing a whole lot. I was taking advantage of the time off and walking around the woods and, catching up on things around the house, and keeping in touch with people. So that was a nice break for about a week. And then I guess it was the beginning of April, I started working construction full time, which is something I've done over the years, but I had gotten away from over the last couple of years. I, was working less and less and less in that line of work, doing more music stuff. And then when all the gigs got wiped out, went back to doing it full time. And I've been really lucky with it because I'm working with a great crew. It's flexible. I'm able to save a little bit of money right now. I really like the guys I'm working with. They take good care of me. So I have a good situation, luckily. And touching on what Josh mentioned earlier, like when the gigs got wiped out, it's loss of income. I was lucky enough to be able to replace that pretty quickly and actually save more money than I've been able to traveling, playing music, especially staying at home. So, wasn't so much the loss of income that hit me, but just, the whole identity crisis, like you mentioned. Like, and a kind of funny thing happened for me where, like, for years I'd been the kind of like floater musician type. Like, I don't have a regular schedule or a typical lifestyle. And then all of a sudden, everyone around me, everyone I know is losing their jobs, and we're experiencing this pandemic. So it's like, well, most of society seemed to have like gone from this normal lifestyle into this like space of floating around, uncertain of everything. I kind of went from floating around,
Yeah.
being a musician with an unusual lifestyle, to being like a really normal guy overnight, like the most normal, working 9 to 5 and, having a routine and a regular job. It's like I felt like I was kind of experiencing the opposite of
Yeah.
what a lot of other people were experiencing. But I definitely felt that sort of a identity crisis. I mean, after a couple months, at least through May, there was just no gigs. And not only that, you couldn't even get together with people. So I was practicing with Michael. He was about the only person I played music with for a couple months. And we were both busy working and, taking care of other things. We'd get together once a week to practice, but it was like nothing compared to what I'm used to. And I started to get in that place where I was like, geez, like I don't even feel like a musician right now. Now
Yeah.
I'm just like a, you know, guy working construction, doing whatever else I do in my free time. And I felt like I was hardly a musician. And I was, I was still practicing every day, pick up my instruments every day. But you know, the big loss in my mind is the inspiration. Like usually when I'm gigging, I get to meet all these other musicians or see friends and hang out and pick. It's not even about the gig or the show or playing with the band, but I just get to play music with so many people and watch other people play music. And that, not having that, not being able to go to a festival or play with someone outside of my usual circle, like the loss of inspiration really killed me. So even though I was picking up my instruments every day practicing, it was hard to make progress. And it's hard to have the same kind of fire when you're doing it after an 8-hour day of hard physical labor and you're trying to just motivate yourself, just like on your own. If you have someone else there to play with, that can be really inspiring. And it doesn't matter if you just worked a 10-hour day and you're dead tired, you get with another player and have that musical connection, it lights you right up. Doesn't You could go for 10 more hours. But to get that motivation on your own without any other musical inputs, it was tough for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but I have found since then, in the past month or two, since people have started getting together here and there, every situation I've been in where people are getting together to play music, it's like everyone's got this hunger now. Like everyone's playing like their life depends on it, like we are valuing the opportunity to play together more.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and it's not about the money or the gig or the whatever. People are just like, let's just play together. And they're playing all out.
Yeah.
That's what I found.
Well,
Yeah.
my calluses are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't hardly. Yeah, I understand. So
Yeah.
Josh, you talk about construction as well, right? You got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my background is in construction as well. I did it for 10 years after I did it through high school and 10 years after high school. And luckily, I really haven't had to do much since about 2010, just because luckily I've been busy with, the groups that I'm affiliated with. And so, but all of a sudden when this stopped, when our all of our gigs got canceled and there's no more work for anybody, the bills keep coming, and you just can't stop. You just have to, like you said, you just got to do. You got to do what you have to do, and
Mm-hmm.
that's an incredible struggle. Like what Q and I are saying is with this identity thing, it is an incredible struggle. And because what you know and what you do every day, and it's not just musicians, it's a lot of people during this time right now. A lot of people are losing their jobs and businesses, and there's it's just a really difficult time, and me personally, there's days where I wake up and just I feel really low, and it's not every day, but every once in a while you just get this funk that you're in, and not the good funk either. And and you just kind of have to, what I do is just tell myself, hey, this is just temporary, and whatever you're feeling right now, just use it to better your tomorrow. And if you're struggling in this moment, like, it's just a moment, and eventually it's going to be good again, and that's what you have to work towards. And so construction wise, it's, yeah, you got to be really careful. Construction, when I was younger, it didn't hurt as much. It hurts now.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, and my hands are soft. You just said about
Oh,
you just said
yeah.
about like losing your calluses. I tell you
Yeah.
what, when I was working construction full time, my body was tough. My hands were tough.
No doubt.
Oh, man, if I pick up a shovel for just a few hours or something, my hands are killing me.
Gotta wear
'Cause
gloves.
even with
Wear
gloves,
gloves.
and then like working with saws and machines, it's always in the back of your head.
Oh
You
yeah.
think to yourself, what happens if I lose a finger?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And that psychologically plays tricks on you, because you need to do this work.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
if something happens to you, your whole life is could be over,
Yep.
like, at least your musical life. So it's just, but
That's always in the back of my mind at work. I'm very serious about gloves and ear protection on the
Yep.
job.
The ear
Always
gloves,
have ear
yeah.
protection in the car,
Yeah.
anytime I'm using power tools, and try
Yeah.
to wear gloves for whatever job I'm doing.
Yeah,
Because
you
there'll be
have to.
that one moment that you like, you could be doing something where all day you don't really need to wear gloves, and then there's just like one little thing you have to cut or something. That
Yeah.
one moment will be the one that gets you.
That's the
Yeah.
But
thing.
truthfully, also people lose fingers and break their wrists and smash up their hands who've never ever swung a hammer. So there's no avoiding risk altogether. So you just got to be conscious of it when it's there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I consider myself pretty lucky in that, like, I do have a good situation with the construction work, and I like the work. I do like it. My only thing that I don't like about it is that it takes me away from music,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
why I had been getting away from doing that kind of work. I kind of enjoy the work, and it's nice to make a little extra money and working with some good guys, which makes all the difference. But yeah, the only downside is that's 8 hours a day that I'm not focusing on music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
takes you away.
That's the
Yeah.
biggest drawback for me.
Yeah.
Josh, Josh, who's Carrie?
Oh, that's my sister.
Your
Carrie's my
sister
sister.
says Dad said don't worry about losing a finger. When you were little, you were playing drums in a full arm cast.
I was. Yeah.
Apparently so. It happened.
It was my first gig. I think I was probably about maybe 9 years old, and my dad, I wanted this drum set really bad, and my dad bought me this drum set, and it was like not my first drum set, but my first like real drum set. And I got this gig in Emmaus at this coffee house, King Coffee, which I still think is
I know
there.
that place. The old time jam is there.
Exactly. So it's still running. So, I had a couple kids in my neighborhood, and we got this little set together, and we went and played, and my arm was broke, and I didn't not want to play the gig, so I had a cast from my wrist all the way up to the top of my arm, and I played it, and it hurt so bad because I had just recently broke my arm, so the bones weren't even set yet. And my dad took me to the gig, and I'm, he's like, well, how are you going to do this? And I'm like, I'm just going to do it. You know, you just do what you have to do. And I don't remember feeling the pain during the gig, but when we were packing up, you know, it hurt so
Yeah, it
bad.
hurt. Yeah.
Oh man.
I was
it
gonna
hurt.
ask if you felt it during the gig, because I
No.
find I never feel injuries while
Nope.
I'm playing. Once you
It's true.
stop, it's like,
Yeah.
oh my, what did I do to myself? But
Yeah.
I've gone into gigs where, like, whether it's a hand issue or just like some minor injury or pain or something, and I'm going into the gig like, oh my God, how am I going to be able to do this? This is going to
Yeah.
be like excruciating. And then you start and you're like, oh, you don't notice it at all.
Yeah.
And after the fact, it might hit you and you're like, what did I do? But
Yeah.
you
know-
never notice it when you're playing.
No, like you just said, you don't notice those kind of
You
things. When you're a touring musician, you know, there's no days off. When you're on the road, you're working, and it doesn't
Mhm.
matter how sick you are. I mean,
Mhm.
we played the Wilbur Theater in Boston. I think it was last year, maybe, and I was really sick. I had taken a flight up to Boston, and I got really sick, like deathly ill, you know, and I knew that as soon as the gig started, I'd be fine. And then, you know, but as soon as that last note hit, I didn't have the energy to even get up off the drum stool and walk off stage. I slid off my drum stool and just laid on my drum riser and just, there's nothing there, you know, but like, that's what happens when, you know, when you're on stage, something comes over you and you don't feel there's no pain.
It's
you know?
true.
Mhm.
It's
You know?
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're reminding me of back about 2000, 2001. I was pretty much playing percussion and singing, and it was a gig up at Split Rock Lodge. It went from 10 o'clock till 2 in the morning, and I played it with 104 fever.
Yeah.
And when it was, and thankfully Gail had come with me and she drove, because I knew I was not going to be able to drive home. And I said, that's exactly what you said, Josh. When it was over,
Yeah.
I said, I'm not touching anything. I'm going to the car. Somebody else pack it all up.
Well, if it's okay, can I share a quick story? Do we have time?
Yeah, please
Okay.
go ahead.
You know, like you and I have shared the stage quite a few times, and you know, when you know, and I've shared this with you, but I think it's important for other people to hear this too. You know, like you know, I played for Dina quite a bit, and when you were going through your cancer, you know, like going through your chemotherapy, we played in Bethlehem one time. And I think it was like a Winterfest or Oktoberfest or something like that.
Yeah, it was Oktoberfest.
And it was cold and it was raining, and you know, you were going through your chemo, which had to be hell, you know, for you to live through, you know. And you got up there and you gave it 150%. And then I remember just thinking to myself, if this person can do this, you know, like you're just capable of anything, you know. And I don't know, I gained, like, I respected you this much, you know, to begin with, but then after that gig, it rose to a whole new level because, you know, just the amount of, you know, the amount of real you just put out was just unmatched, you know.
I do remember that. I won't
Yeah.
forget it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh, there's no crying on the internet.
Sorry.
Thank you.
You know, I'm an emotional guy.
I know you are, and I love you for it. I do remember that. I remember
Yeah.
many, many layers, and it was raining, and
It
I
sucked.
needed something on the. I walked to the car and put a blanket down just to stand on it because it was so
Yeah.
hard and cold. It was a 4-hour. That was a 4-hour
Yeah.
thing,
But
but it paid well.
yeah, I don't remember that, but yeah, maybe it did. I don't care what things pay. You
Go
know,
through my
like,
checkbook, I'll find out.
yeah, I tell you what, like the gigs that are happening now, like I live towards Lancaster now, and luckily there's a really cool music scene down here,
Yes.
you know, which I'm a part of, or I moonlight, you know, in a part of. And so it's kind of funny. The first gig I did was like an outdoor gig down here during this COVID scare. And there was rain in the forecast, and the guys called me up and they're saying, "Hey man, it's supposed to rain. You know, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't care if it rains. Like, I haven't played a gig in months, and it could rain, it could downpour, and I I don't care. I just want to play, And, so we started the gig, and, halfway through our first set, it started pouring, and all the guys like looked at me. They're like, "Are you okay with this? Because your drums are getting wet." I'm like, "Dude, I don't even care right now, man. Like, I'm just happy to be playing." Finally, we're able to just, to play our instruments and create, music and make people feel something positive. There's so much bad stuff happening, but at the same time, there's an awful lot of really wonderful things happening, even through all the bad stuff that's happening. And I think that music, it just brings people happiness. I know it brings me happiness, so people need it. I need it, and I want it all the time.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I'm a junkie for this music.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why you've made it your life. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I got a question for. Can either of you come and help me repair the floor? I think it's where the deck. The one side of the deck is rotting. It's not a deck. It's the front porch. So
Okay.
I've done one end, but the other one looks like it needs a little bit extra
Sure.
structural work.
We should team up on that.
I'll take
Okay.
a quote. I'll take an estimate. Anything from either of you, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you know how to repair that. So.
We should just all do it together and play some tunes after. That'd be the best option.
For sure.
Well, okay. Maybe that's the way to do it. I mean, I literally drove an hour to Leesport, Pennsylvania last week. Gail and I went and dismantled a shed because we're poor now. Nobody has anything, we have disposable money, but we needed to move some things around, and we like, how can we do this? And we took the shed apart, but I left the walls intact.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to be like, to have a barn raising and put the walls up, and we're going to put it back together again. So
cool. Hey, dang.
It's the camera. That's 10 pounds.
Yeah.
That's really not what my arm looks like. Actually, now my tambourine waddle is getting a little bit.
I tell you what, tambourine is a workout,
isn't it?
I haven't, like one thing with this COVID thing is because all the gigs have, there's no more gigs. I've actually, been able to be in the studio a lot more than I usually am, which is awesome.
Yes.
But I haven't shaken a tambourine, and nor am I an expert at shaking tambourine. And there's some people that can shake a tambourine. I am not one of them.
It's stamina.
Yeah, like not doing something like that for a long time. It's just like, it doesn't seem like a lot, but shit.
There should be
after a few takes, it's just like, oh. Man.
There should be a tambourine on every song.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Keeping time.
Yeah, for sure.
Right,
absolutely.
on every song. No,
there's a lot in Tom Petty's music, so it can't be that bad.
No.
So you're saying tambourine isn't just the thing that the drunk guy at the bar makes noise on? There's actually experts?
I tell you what, man.
There are experts. Stevie Nicks, that's all she played.
Yeah, there are some tambourine players, I assure you. I'm going to send you some links, Q.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's true, though, because when you're a percussionist and you don't have that drum kit, even just talking bluegrass, you've got minimal, you don't have drums. You make your percussion with your mandolin makes the percussion, even your bass is your percussion. So so if you're in like an acoustic setting, or you're out somewhere where there's I have learned how to play it appropriately.
Right.
Not like the drunk person at the
bar, right. It's funny, being that I play in like a traditional bluegrass band, no drums. I play all these festivals where there's no drums, no percussion. Sometimes people get this idea like I hate drums and drummers and percussionists. But I find when I'm listening to music, and especially like watching live music, if there's a good drummer, that's like all I can focus on. Or a good percussionist, when I'm like out seeing other styles of music.
That's right.
I get so locked in like on the percussionists and the drummers. Like sometimes I can't take my attention away from it. So for someone who plays a no drums style of music, I do have a lot of love for the percussion.
Yeah.
It's got to be there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hate drummer. I hate drummers.
Drummers. Oh,
Oh, I didn't say
drummers.
anything about drummers. I just drums, percussion sounds.
Yeah.
Drummers are a different story.
Oh man,
Yeah.
most of them are not good. If you're, I'm not a big fan of drummers. So I'll just put it that way.
Okay.
I'll
Well,
refrain from getting into musician
Yeah.
stereotypes.
well, let's. So on a positive note,
Yeah.
Josh, talking about you. I remember another time we got into a situation where we were playing in a trio. I think it was
Okay.
I think it was me, you, and Nick at Music Fest at the Arts Quest Center in the big area, right? And they specifically the contract said no drums.
Uh-huh.
And I said to you, so can you I don't know, can you do this? Can you play cajon? Can you do something? No drums. And you said to me, do you trust me?
Yeah.
Those were your words. And I
Yeah.
said, yeah, I 100% I trust you.
Yeah.
And it was so tasteful
Yeah.
that nobody complained. Nobody had anything. No, there were no worries about it.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I remember that, it's because I, from swinging hammers for years, I mean, your hands really do get beat up working, and not only your hands, but your body, working construction is not easy on your body. After years of doing that, like I have severe damage in my hands. And I mean, there's some nights where I'm playing on stage and my hands go absolutely numb and it's terrible. I hate it. But, so when someone calls me up and they're like, hey, can you do this gig, but I don't want you to play drums. Can you play some percussion? I'll flat out say no. But I still want the gig. So what I try to do, is to show up to that gig, knowing what my role is, and I don't have to play, like a Muppet, like an animal or something, like
Oh,
you play to the room every gig, you do your
Yeah.
best and, I don't know. That's why I don't like drummers. Drummers just want to play their drums. Me, I want to play music. And
yeah.
if the music calls for something subtle, just to, that's what I want to give the person, or the
Yeah.
audience.
You
I
have
don't
that
want.
on every instrument though. It's
Ah,
just it's a matter of perspective. It's not exclusive to drummers, that
yeah,
kind of
for sure.
mentality. It's
Yeah,
just that's how any instrumentalist or vocalist, any musician should approach the music to serve the
yeah.
song, not to serve their instrument or their ego. I
Mm.
remember in high school, I went to LVPA my last 2 years of high school,
Just
and I remember
explain, Q. Just explain that for people who don't know
oh
what that
the
is.
the Lehigh Valley. Well, no, now it's got a different name. It's now called the Lehigh Valley Charter High School for the Arts.
There you
It
go.
used to be LVPA, Lehigh Valley Performing Arts. So it's a performing arts high school in Bethlehem. And I remember one of my teachers used to say, "You don't play guitar, you play music, or you don't play your instrument, you play music. Your instrument's just a medium, an outlet for it. But if you
Mhm.
go into it with this mindset like, oh, I play drums, I play guitar, I play, mandolin or whatever it is, you're not going to be serving music. You just play music. It just so happens to be that's the medium that you've trained yourself on, that you can get it out most easily."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I've always,
Very
always kind of
wise.
liked that perspective.
Incredibly wise. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Too many youngsters, they'll go and get lessons. Mom and dad will give them, get them lessons. Which is, I'm not saying anything bad. That's a really great thing to be exposed to music at a young age. But unfortunately, I feel that a lot of youngsters, like they learn how to, especially drummers. There's tons of drumming videos, drumming just in particular, because I watch this stuff. On
Hmm.
social media, there's tons of drummers that are sitting in a room and playing these licks and these drum fills and like they're just going 100 miles an hour of what they're doing, but it's not musical. And I don't know that the music that I listen to is that would none of it would ever fit into the music that I would listen to. you know.
Hmm.
So what I try to accomplish is like you know, when I'm at a gig, I think to myself, okay, like what would Charlie Watts play, or what would Levon Helm play, or what would Ringo Starr play, or Steve Jordan, or you know, all these guys that I really, you know, have listened to and studied their you know, their approach to drumming. I'm always mindful of that stuff. You know, I always have that in my head, you know, like
Hmm.
how not to get fired from this gig, you know, essentially,
That's
you
it.
know.
I
That's it.
I always think when you're learning an instrument, and when I try to stress this when I'm giving lessons myself, half the battle is listening. That
Yeah.
like, you can practice scales and work on technique, and I mean I'm all about technique and theory and all the technical nerdy stuff. I love it. I totally embrace that end of it. But it starts with listening. Like if the music's not in your ear, not in your head, it's not going to be in your fingers or in your instrument. And just like really intentful, thoughtful listening is some of the best practice you can do.
Yeah.
I've been at practices like rehearsals, not necessarily with my band, but like with other groups that I'm, filling in with for a gig here or there. And so working on new material and playing with people who like haven't played together a lot. And I can think of one time like we're working on this song and it's like let's just like listen to this real quick. Like let's, find a recording and just like listen to it just to all kind of, not saying we have to replicate the recording, but just to really hear what's going on and like get some of that information in our ears and all kind of like be on the same page of what we're going for, or not even necessarily what we're going for, just to give you some context on the song. Just sit there and listen, like really thoughtfully listen before you go like, oh, this is the chords, this is the notes, just play it, like really listen to it. And I think that's so, and I kind of got weird looks for wanting to do that. Like I'm in the middle of rehearsal and I was like pulling my phone out like, oh, let's listen to this, playing the song, sitting there listening. And I kind of felt like maybe some of the other people, they were like, what are you doing? Like we're supposed to be practicing. And I'm like, no, but we are. Like this is part of the work, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they got
Yeah.
another comment there from Patrick McGeehan.
Oh,
Oh, hey
cool.
Pat.
Hey,
Hey,
Pat.
Pat.
Pat says, great to see you all.
Yeah,
This
nice
is
to see.
nice.
Nice to hear from him.
It's been really wonderful to have all of these people
Yeah.
tuning in and asking. They're not asking questions, they are just affirming all the things we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to get an estimate from each of you to repair the front porch.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we're gonna. So all right, so let's hit this right here before we head out of here, because this has been an incredible conversation, and we could all talk about this forever, but
Yes.
we don't have forever. So, let me put this back up here. Quentin Fisher, founding member of Serene Green. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
What is the website for Serene Green?
That's serenegreenbluegrass.com.
There you go. And my other guest, Josh Kanusky's the drummer for David Bromberg. Is it band or quintet, Dave, Josh?
Lately on the records, it's been band.
Band.
But you know what? When we play live, it's
It's a
quintet.
quintet. So,
But you can call it whatever
yeah.
you want. Just
All right,
show
so
up.
just show up and just buy. So the most important thing I want to say now is, folks, if you're listening, buy the music, buy the merch, support. That's the best way to support the arts right now is to buy the stuff, and because there's no tickets happening. And I also want to mention once again that anyone interested in sending a little money over, 10% of the tips will go to Turning Point of the Lehigh Valley, which is an agency here in the Lehigh Valley that serves victims of domestic abuse. So paypal.me/Dina Hall 2020. I think that's all on my website, dinahall.com. You've both, I just have enjoyed this so much. I've got one burning question though.
Yeah.
The last time I saw each of you, your hair was really, really long. And now look at you. Like the music
Yeah.
stopped and y'all got
That's what happened for
cut
me.
your hair off.
Yeah.
I cut my hair pre-pandemic.
You did, I
actually,
know, I saw
in
that.
December.
Well, I like this. I like this very much, both of you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
You're
I was saving money with not using so much conditioner, you know?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
there.
big time. Big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you're both beautiful people. I love you very
Thanks,
much.
Dina.
And it's been wonderful talking with you.
Yeah. And thanks for having
Likewise.
us, Dina. And thanks for
Yeah.
doing this. It really, like it means a lot to, I know it means a lot to both of us. I'm going to speak for both of us here.
You go right ahead.
Just being involved
Yeah.
in something like this and having the opportunity to share stories. It's the closest thing that we have right now to creating music, and it feels really great. So thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
So the one final thing we have to do is try to give a high five.
Which hand?
It's easy for me. I'm up here, so you try to.
Okay, so I go left. You go.
It's hard here.
Yeah,
no,
it
you
is
gotta
tough.
hit each other. You gotta.
We gotta hit each other. Oh man!
What?
Hit each other. Hit each other down.
I don't even know how to do this.
It's very, very hard.
Yeah, that really messes with your senses.
It's like the opposite of what you think.
Yeah.
This is my favorite part of the whole.
Look at the elbow, right? That's what
I don't know. Just try to wipe the sweat. Oh, it's backwards. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Once again, my friends, good to see you all.
Thank you, Dina. Good talking to you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Yes,
Take care.
Take care.
That was just wonderful. It's so nice. These guys have been friends. I've known them both for a really long time, and it's good. It's so nice to have your comments as well, because this is a community, and we're trying to keep that conversation going. So in the coming weeks, we'll get to some more of this. I'm working on building up the roster again and schedule for some upcoming weeks. But next week, I have we're going to switch over to comedy next week. We've got Aaron Alkasov and Janir Hankerson. They are both stand-up and improv comedy from right here in the Lehigh Valley. Both are associated with Arts Quest and also the improv comedy jam at Godfrey Daniels. So we should, I'm expecting to have a lot of fun with that. So thank you so very much. And I'll be back at you in another week or so. Take care of each other. Be kind, because that's about all we have right now. And I wish you all the best. Bye-bye.